AITA for refusing to let my cousin's friend ride with us on our road trip. A few weeks ago, I agreed to drive my boyfriend Marcus, his cousin Rachel, and myself to a weekend camping trip. I recently got my license, and I drive a small hatchback that is reliable but not exactly spacious. The plan was for the three of us to go together, with enough room for our camping gear, clothes, and food. Since Rachel has been known to overpack, I made it very clear early on that we needed to be mindful of space and weight. My car handles fine, but it's not built to carry heavy loads, especially not for long distances on winding roads. As we got closer to the trip, Rachel mentioned that her friend Dana was also planning to go, but didn't have a ride. She casually said Dana could just squeeze in with us. I asked how much Dana would bring, and Rachel brushed it off, saying just a small bag, but I had doubts. Rachel has said that before and showed up with 3 duffel bags and a fold-out chair. I expressed my concerns calmly. My car would already be packed. Adding one more person and her things would make the car cramped, and it would affect my visibility and driving comfort. I'm still building confidence behind the wheel, and being responsible for everyone's safety on a long drive is already a lot. I said Dana should take the bus or a train like she originally planned. Rachel got defensive and Marcus started pressuring me to make room, saying it wasn't fair for Dana to travel alone. But I didn't know Dana at all, and I didn't feel comfortable being responsible for someone else I had never met, especially on narrow rural roads. The idea of driving stressed and distracted made me even more nervous. I told Marcus that I was the one driving, not him, and I needed to feel safe and focused. He accused me of being unkind and unwelcoming. I reminded him that Dana could still get there just fine using public transport. She wouldn't be stranded. The only difference was that Rachel didn't want to ride with her. Now Marcus is cold toward me and keeps hinting that I should apologize, but I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I said yes to driving under certain conditions, and those were being ignored. I'm trying to protect everyone's safety and my own peace of mind. I feel guilty for the tension this has caused, but I don't believe it's right to be forced into something that makes me anxious just to avoid a small inconvenience for someone I barely know. Navigating group travel plans can reveal deeper issues around boundaries, responsibility, and mutual respect. When someone volunteers to drive, they're not just offering a seat in a vehicle. They're also accepting full accountability for safety, timing, and logistics. That trust deserves recognition, not pressure. It's reasonable to consider your own limitations, especially as a new driver with limited space and experience. Choosing not to accommodate extra passengers is not selfish. It's a mature judgment call. Sometimes, others will try to shift blame to avoid conflict among themselves, but it's important to stand firm when your comfort and control are being disregarded. If a decision directly affects your stress levels, your focus, or your ability to manage the situation calmly, then saying no is not only fair, it's wise. The key is to express your stance clearly without resentment. Let your actions reflect care, not hostility. Over time, people may come to understand that drawing healthy lines is not about creating distance, but about maintaining safety, trust, and stability for everyone involved. Story 2. AITA for confronting my brother-in-law after he caused problems at my sister's workplace. My sister, Emily, has always been dedicated to her job as a nurse at the local hospital. She works long hours and genuinely cares about her patients. Her husband, Mark, has been unemployed for over a year now, despite his efforts to find a steady job. Lately, Mark has been acting strangely, convinced that Emily is hiding things from him. One day, Mark blocked the hospital's scheduling manager on Emily's phone without telling her, because he believed Emily was involved with that manager. There was no proof, just his suspicion. When my mother found out what Mark did, she tried to explain to him that his behavior was not only unfair but also harmful, especially since it was affecting Emily's reputation and work environment. Instead of listening, Mark exploded, accusing my mother of being a bad parent and bringing up old family issues to hurt her feelings. I lost my patience and told Mark that he was being selfish and insecure, relying on Emily's income while creating chaos in their lives and showing no respect to my family. Emily was upset that I confronted Mark so harshly in front of everyone, saying I made things harder for her at home. Now, I feel stuck because I do not regret standing up for my mom and sister, but I hate that Emily feels caught between us. I wonder if I crossed a line or if defending them was the right thing to do. This situation highlights how toxic insecurity and unchecked suspicions can damage not only relationships, but also careers and family bonds. It is important to recognize that when someone acts out of jealousy or paranoia without evidence, it often causes more harm than good. Standing up against such behavior is necessary, but doing so thoughtfully matters just as much. Calling out someone's harmful actions directly can feel like the right move, especially when protecting loved ones, yet it's vital to consider the timing and manner of confrontation invitation to avoid making the person caught in the middle feel trapped or overwhelmed. If you find yourself in a similar scenario, focus on clear communication with all parties involved. Support the person under stress without escalating conflicts in front of others. Setting firm boundaries with those who behave destructively is crucial, but also try to preserve peace by addressing issues privately when possible. Ultimately, prioritizing the emotional well-being of the family member caught between conflicting sides should guide how you act. The goal is to protect them from further stress while discouraging toxic behavior effectively. Remember that empathy and patience can help de-escalate tension and open space for healing. Story 3. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he excluded my stepfather from the suit arrangements. About 4 months ago, I learned that my older brother, Jason, was planning a small civil ceremony with his fiancée instead of a big traditional wedding. One afternoon, he came to my parents' house and told our stepfather, George, that due to budget cuts, he was only paying for his own suit, mine, and the fiancée's father's suit. It struck me as strange that he left out George completely, as well as his own son, who is 11 years old. My mother, sisters, and I all told him that this was unfair and hurtful, especially considering George had raised us all as his own children since we were young. George is a kind and generous man who has worked hard his whole life and treated us like his family. We begged Jason to find a way to include George and the boy in the suit plans. We even offered to help pay, but the damage was done. George was deeply hurt and felt rejected. He wanted to be part of the family photo, all of us wearing matching suits on Jason's wedding day. I lost my temper over the situation and sent Jason a message telling him I would not attend the wedding unless he fixed this. Our argument escalated, and now Jason says I am not welcome at his wedding because of how I spoke to him. He has refused to admit any fault, while I feel I was standing up for what was right. Meanwhile, George reluctantly agreed to wear the suit Jason finally bought for him, but he admitted he did not want to after feeling so excluded. The rest of the family wants me to apologize and make peace, but I cannot accept being blamed for my reaction when Jason is the one who caused all this hurt by his choices. The wedding is coming up soon, but I still have not forgiven or changed my mind. I want to do what feels just, but I wonder if I am the one being unreasonable. When family events become sources of conflict, it is important to reflect on what respect and inclusion truly mean. Excluding someone who has played a vital role in raising and supporting the family can leave lasting emotional wounds. Even when budgets are tight, finding ways to honor those bonds matters more than appearances or financial convenience. Standing firm for fairness is commendable, but balancing that with compassion and a willingness to listen can help heal tensions. In situations like this, communication should aim to bridge divides rather than deepen them. It is okay to express disappointment and insist on respect, but holding on to anger without seeking understanding risks fracturing relationships beyond repair. If you find yourself caught between loyalty and conflict, consider focusing on preserving the dignity of those affected most. Sometimes, offering grace while clearly setting boundaries opens the door to reconciliation. Remember that family dynamics are rarely perfect, and patience combined with honest dialogue often leads to the best outcomes. Choosing when to stand your ground and when to forgive is a delicate process, but it shapes how lasting and meaningful your connections will be. Story 4. AITA for getting upset after seeing my ex with someone new? I dated Lena for just over a year. She had a tight-knit family. They all lived within walking distance of each other, and they were always in each other's lives. Her younger brother lived right across the street. He'd stop by nearly every night, sometimes just to hang out, sometimes just for dinner. If he didn't show up, she'd often bring him a plate anyway. At first, I thought it was nice, that kind of closeness. But over time, it started to bother me. Every time we had a quiet evening planned, someone would call or drop by. If we made lunch plans, she'd sometimes change them to include a sibling or two. Even when we were just watching a movie, she'd often be texting one of them. I started to feel like I didn't have real space in her life. I brought it up gently at first, but it always turned into a disagreement. When I suggested we move in together, I told her maybe we could get a new place farther from her family so we could focus on building something for ourselves. She got angry and said I was only interested in her money since she owned her home, and I didn't. That hurt. Then there was the issue of my car breaking down. I needed help with a down payment for a used one, and I asked her for a loan. She refused and said she wasn't comfortable giving me money. Not long after that, it was my turn to pay for our usual date night. I told her I couldn't afford anything big and suggested she cover it if she still wanted to go somewhere nice. That led to another argument. Things just kept building up and we eventually ended it. That was about 4 weeks ago. Then yesterday, I went to pick up food from a spot we used to go to. I saw her there with her family and a guy I'd never seen before. He was sitting close, laughing with everyone, and had his arm around her chair. I stayed outside and watched. A little while later, they all left together. I felt something tighten in my chest. I drove past her place later and saw him going inside with her. I felt angry. I messaged her and told her it felt too fast, that it didn't make sense how someone new could be that close to her family already. I asked if she had been seeing him while we were still together. She replied and told me that he wasn't new. He was an old friend. He was in town visiting and staying with her. And yes, they were exploring something romantic now. She told me what I thought didn't matter anymore and that I needed to stop keeping tabs on her. I told my best friend about it, and he looked at me and said it straight. He said I shouldn't have followed her or driven past her place. He said that even if I felt hurt, it wasn't my place anymore, and that maybe I crossed a line. I still don't know how to feel. I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm confused, and I don't know if I was completely wrong or just overwhelmed. I miss her, but I wonder now if I ever really fit into her life the way I thought I did. Letting go of a relationship is rarely simple, especially when emotions still feel unsettled. When connection fades and someone moves forward without you, it's natural to experience confusion, hurt, and even frustration. But how we respond in those moments matters more than the feelings themselves. Observing someone's life from a distance, especially after things have ended, can quietly become a pattern that drains your peace and keeps you tethered to what no longer belongs to you. What feels like concern or longing can sometimes cross into territory that disrespects boundaries, even unintentionally. It's important to recognize when your actions stop being about understanding and start becoming about control. Closure does not always arrive in neat explanations or shared understanding. Often, it begins with acceptance. Accepting that the path has shifted, that the bond has ended, and that your healing must come from within. Grief over a breakup is real, and it deserves time, but growth depends on how you carry that pain. Instead of seeking answers through confrontation, try directing your focus inward. Ask yourself what you needed but didn't receive. Learn from the discomfort, not just the rejection. Your worth isn't diminished by someone choosing a new direction. You owe it to yourself to reclaim your energy, rebuild your identity apart from them, and respect the space that both of you now require. Maturity is not about denying sadness. It's about navigating it with self-awareness and grace. Before we move on to the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, tell us your favorite story in the comments, and if you have your own story to share, let us know down there too. Story 5. AITA for refusing to tell my mom to uninvite someone over to her house and still going over there. I was in a relationship with someone named Ethan. Things started off well, and we spent time together, made plans, and talked about the future. Over time, though, little disagreements started turning into bigger ones. The tension wasn't always loud, but it kept building. Around the same time, there was a situation involving a family friend named Mark. Mark had been around our extended circle for a while. He was older than most of us and had formed a bond with a friend of mine, Julia, who was in the middle of separating from her partner. Their decision to start seeing each other after the separation caused a lot of upset, especially from those close to Julia's ex. I had been part of this whole environment, trying to stay neutral. I didn't take sides, but I did continue being around Mark and Julia in shared settings. At one point, Mark was invited by my sister to come over for a family evening at my mother's house. We were planning a relaxed night of games and catching up, and I was also going to work on fixing my shared car with my younger brother. Ethan was supposed to come along, and I had mentioned the gathering to him ahead of time. When he found out that Mark would be there, he reacted strongly. He told me I had to call my mom and ask her to uninvite him. He said it wasn't right for Mark to be included, given the hurt he believed Mark caused. I told Ethan that I didn't feel comfortable telling my mom who she could and couldn't invite to her home. It wasn't my place, and I didn't want to be the one to make that demand. Ethan insisted. I told him again that I wasn't going to do that, and the conversation turned heated. He said if I wouldn't do it, he would. I told him that wasn't okay with me either. I tried to step back and think, so I called my mom to let her know what was going on, not to ask her to change her plans, but just to be transparent. My mom told me she expected us to be respectful in her home and didn't appreciate being told who to invite. After that, Ethan kept calling and texting me nonstop. I sent him proof that I had spoken to my mom, hoping it would ease the situation. It didn't. He said I was ruining everything and even made threats toward Mark. That was when I knew I couldn't bring him into a space filled with children and family. I asked him to take a break and let me think, but he wouldn't stop messaging me. I told him if he couldn't be calm, he couldn't come with me. I went anyway. I spent the entire day with my brother and brother-in-law, working on the car, staying outside, away from drama. Ethan later said I was acting like someone else and broke up with me. I keep wondering if I was wrong for going to my mom's house, despite everything, but it didn't feel right to control her decisions, and I couldn't bring someone into her home who wasn't willing to be civil. I wasn't trying to pick sides. I just didn't want to bring more anger where there was supposed to be peace. In moments when emotions run high, it becomes especially important to recognize where your responsibility ends and someone else's begins. You are not obligated to manage another person's reactions, especially when those reactions become controlling or unsafe. Respecting your mother's home and choosing not to impose demands on her guest list reflects maturity and healthy boundaries. A partner who expects you to override your own family's autonomy for their comfort is not seeking compromise. They are asking for control. When someone repeatedly dismisses your voice, ignores your need for space, and uses intimidation or threats to get their way, that is not love. It is manipulation. Love listens. Love makes room for discomfort without forcing someone to choose sides. A peaceful home should never be put at risk for someone else's unresolved frustration. You did the right thing by standing firm, protecting your family's safety, and refusing to contribute to conflict. Let this experience remind you that maintaining self-respect sometimes means walking away from people who only value your presence when it serves their demands. Real connection should never come with fear or pressure. Prioritize relationships that honor your judgment, especially when it involves protecting others from harm. Story 6. AITA for making a divorce joke that upset everyone in my life. When my friend Daniel moved back to town after spending nearly a year abroad, I was excited to see him again. We had always been close, and we often joked around with each other, sometimes pushing the line just a little too far. To mark his return, we met at the small pub where we used to hang out every Friday night. The moment I saw him, I felt like we picked up right where we left off. Maybe that's why I didn't think carefully about what I said next. As we sat down and he asked how things were going at home, I told him that I was planning to leave my wife. I kept a straight face. I said we weren't getting along anymore and that I had grown tired of everything. The shock on his face was exactly what I expected. I even thought it was a little funny. He asked me a lot of questions and I answered vaguely, keeping up the joke, but I never got the chance to tell him it wasn't true. Before I could say anything else, we wrapped up the evening and went our separate ways. I assumed I'd call him the next day and let him in on the prank. Instead, he called my wife that night. When I got home, the atmosphere had changed completely. My wife looked heartbroken and furious at the same time. She asked me why I had said those things and whether I had been honest with Daniel. I tried to explain that it was just a joke, just something silly to mess with an old friend. She didn't find it funny. She told me that making light of something as serious as our marriage was not only immature, but cruel. At first, she told me to leave. She didn't want to look at me. My brother and sister-in-law, who had come by for dinner earlier, tried to step in. They talked to her while I waited in the kitchen, not knowing what else to say. When she finally agreed to speak with me, she said very clearly that if I ever joked about something like that again, she would not wait for an explanation. She said that the fear and confusion she felt hearing that from someone else was not something she wanted to feel again. I told her I was sorry. I said that I didn't mean to hurt her and that I would never speak about our relationship in that way again, but I could still feel the distance between us. Daniel won't answer my messages. My family said I crossed a line. I thought it was harmless, but now I realize it wasn't. I tried to be clever and instead I hurt people I care about. I didn't expect a single sentence to cause this much damage. Now I'm wondering if I was truly wrong or just careless. Maybe they are both the same. When humor blurs into deception, even with innocent intent, the emotional cost can outweigh the momentary amusement. Relationships thrive on trust and emotional security, and when those are shaken, especially by jokes that mimic real pain, they can leave a mark far deeper than expected. Pretending to end a marriage may seem like a harmless shock to a friend, but to a partner, it may feel like betrayal, not just of words, but of shared commitment. In close relationships, especially with a spouse, words carry weight beyond surface, meaning what's spoken as a joke might be heard as a signal of distance or disregard. Even if you didn't mean harm, your choice revealed a gap in emotional awareness. Real connection isn't built by testing reactions or chasing laughs. It grows through care, sincerity, and consideration. If people around you are upset, it's not just because of what was said, but because they trusted you to treat something sacred with seriousness. Learn from this. Let this mistake be a turning point toward deeper understanding. Going forward, think not only about what might be funny, but also about what might be fragile. Protect that, and you'll become someone others can truly rely on, even when the laughter fades. Story 7. AITA for inviting my parents and grandma to my daughter's birthday party. My little girl is turning 4 next month. It feels like she was just learning to walk yesterday, and now she's asking for cupcakes and balloons in her favorite color. We decided to plan a small gathering. Nothing fancy, just family, a few friends, some snacks, and a little music in the backyard. I sent out invitations a few weeks ago. Everyone I thought might want to share the day with her. My husband's mom said right away she would make the trip. She lives pretty far out, but she said she'd be there no matter how long the drive takes. A few others confirmed too. I sent sent the same invite to my parents and to my grandmother. I didn't hear back from them. I wasn't too worried at first. I included a line asking everyone to please let me know by the week before, so I figured maybe they were still thinking about it. Then I spoke with my sister. She lives near them. She said she had spoken to our grandmother, and she sent me a message. In it, she said it was thoughtless of me to even ask them to come. She said my parents were just coming back from a big trip and would be home for a short time, so they needed rest and space. She added that she had appointments, though I didn't know that, and said the timing of the party was bad because my sister's baby is due right around then. My sister's first baby. She plans to keep her home quiet for several weeks afterward. I understand that, truly, but still, I didn't think inviting them was wrong. I didn't expect them to feel obligated. I just thought they might like to be there. They've missed several milestones already. We don't live that far. It's a quick flight. I've made the trip alone many times, even with my daughter in tow. They are retired. They have the means. I thought they might want to come for their granddaughter. I thought an invite was kind. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't a guilt trip. I only wanted to include them. When I read the message from my grandmother, I felt confused, then a little hurt. She made it seem like I had been disrespectful, like my invitation was a burden. I never meant it that way. I just wanted my daughter to be surrounded by people who care about her. I wanted her to look around and see familiar faces. I wanted her to feel special. It's not about gifts or how far someone travels. It's about being remembered. I understand that people have lives and plans, but it still stings to hear that my simple request was seen as an imposition. So now I'm sitting here, wondering if I crossed a line by asking, wondering if I should have just assumed they wouldn't come. I don't want to cause tension, especially not during a time when there's a new baby on the way. But I also don't think I did something wrong. I thought an invitation was a way to say, you matter to us, and we'd love to see you. That's all it was meant to be. Inviting loved ones to share in moments of joy is an act of inclusion, not pressure. Offering the opportunity to be present is not a demand. It's an expression of connection. When that invitation is met with criticism rather than understanding, it reveals more about their priorities than your intentions. You extended a gesture rooted in love. If others interpret that as an inconvenience, it may be time to reevaluate what kind of presence they choose to be in your life. Family dynamics are layered, and timing can be sensitive, especially around major life events. Still, dismissing your effort with disapproval is not a fair or thoughtful response. You were thoughtful in your approach. You respected their space and clearly communicated your needs. You didn't assume and you didn't insist. Sometimes people react not to the ask itself, but to their own discomfort with being needed at a time that doesn't suit them. Remember this: you did not ask too much by wanting your child to be celebrated with family. What you asked for was simple: shared joy, shared presence. Let their response be what it is, and let it teach you how they show up. What matters now is that your daughter feels seen, supported, and loved by those who are willing to show up with kindness. Focus on that. The ones who make the effort are the ones whose presence will mean the most. Before we move on to the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, tell us your favorite story in the comments, and if you have your own story to share, let us know down there too. Story 8. AITA for telling my mom my brother needs professional help after he became violent. I was watching my younger siblings for the afternoon. My daughter was with me too. My older brother and my youngest brother, who is 9, were there. The youngest has been very difficult lately. He often makes up stories about others, sometimes saying terrible things that are not true. He has a violent streak both with his words and actions. While I was watching them, I told him to stop hitting my 6-year-old brother. At first, he denied it, but then I saw him hitting him hard when I looked closer. I tried to stop him. He began yelling that I was hurting him and that he would get me kicked out. This was all while my older brother was nearby, seeing everything happen. Things escalated quickly. He grabbed a knife and started throwing things around the house. I locked myself, my 6-year-old brother, my 16-year-old sister, and my baby in a room upstairs to stay safe. The 9-year-old tried to get past my sister to reach the baby. I yelled for him to stay away and pushed him back. I was scared for everyone. My mom came home soon after I called her, but she took the youngest out for food like it was no big deal. I told her I thought he needed serious help, maybe therapy or even a special facility. I couldn't see how letting him run loose like that was safe for anyone. He is hurting the family, and it's not something that can be ignored. I told my mom what I thought, and now I'm wondering if I was wrong for saying he needs professional care. I just want everyone to be safe. Situations involving unpredictable and dangerous behavior in family members demand careful and immediate attention. When a child or adolescent exhibits violent tendencies that threaten the safety of others, dismissing these actions or treating them as mere mischief can lead to serious consequences. problems. It is essential to prioritize the well-being of all household members, especially vulnerable ones like younger siblings or infants. Seeking professional evaluation and intervention is not a sign of failure or betrayal, but a responsible step toward ensuring safety and healing. Mental health support, whether through therapy, counseling, or specialized care facilities, can provide the structure and guidance necessary to address underlying issues. It is important for caregivers and family members to communicate openly and honestly about concerns and to advocate firmly for appropriate help even if it feels uncomfortable. Protecting everyone from harm, including the individual acting out, requires recognizing when a situation has surpassed the limits of what can be managed informally. Taking action with compassion and resolve is crucial. Your decision to express these concerns was courageous and necessary, reflecting a commitment to safety and long-term well-being. Story 9. AITA for turning down a girl because I'm already in a relationship. A few weeks ago, I met someone new and we quickly became friends. We connected over music and talked a lot. She started sending me many photos of herself and I complimented her, telling her she looked nice. I meant it as a friend, just like I do with others. Then, yesterday, she added me to her close friends on social media and posted a story saying she loved me. I replied awkwardly, hoping she felt the same way about me. Soon after, she told me she was talking about me. I felt I had to be honest, so I told her I've been in a committed relationship for 2 years. After that, her attitude changed. She became distant and cold. I understand that rejection hurts, but she is acting like it is wrong for me to say no, and it makes me feel guilty. I never wanted to hurt her, but I needed to be clear about my situation. I wonder if I was wrong to reject her or if I was simply honest and respectful to my partner. When setting boundaries in relationships, clarity and honesty are vital. It is important to communicate your situation respectfully and firmly, especially when someone develops feelings that you cannot reciprocate. Feeling guilty for declining advances does not mean you did anything wrong. Being loyal to your partner and transparent with others about your status shows integrity. Sometimes, people may react negatively to rejection because of their own emotions, but that should not pressure you into compromising your values or honesty. Maintaining respectful distance while showing kindness can help ease discomfort, but your commitment should always be your priority. Protecting your relationship and being truthful is a responsible and mature choice. It is okay to prioritize your existing connection without feeling selfish or uncaring. In situations like these, staying calm, empathetic, and clear helps prevent misunderstandings and keeps boundaries healthy. Story 10. AITA for thinking about divorce because my husband keeps talking about his coworker. I have been married to Jason for nearly 5 years, and we have been together for 8 years in total. For the last year, Jason has developed a habit that really bothers me. He keeps bringing up a woman from his workplace. Let's call her Emily. He talks about her in a way that makes me uncomfortable, especially when he mentions her appearance. I have told him more than once that this upsets me and feels disrespectful, but he dismisses my feelings. When I say, "Please stop talking about Emily like that," it hurts me. He replies that I am being too sensitive and that he is just joking. Sometimes he stops for a day or two, but then the behavior starts again, almost like a cycle. Because of this, I find myself dreading the time he comes home from work. I worry that soon, the conversation will turn to Emily again, and I will be reminded of how he notices her in ways he never does with me. It makes me feel less confident and unattractive, like I am being compared unfavorably. I feel betrayed by this constant focus on someone else. I have tried to communicate openly with him about my feelings, but I am starting to wonder if things can change or if this is something I will have to live with. The situation has left me feeling hurt and unsure about the future of our marriage. If your husband can't go a full dinner without turning your living room into the Emily Appreciation Podcast, it might be time to unplug the mic. Look, admiration is one thing, but when you've told him more times than your phone's told you to update iOS that this makes you uncomfortable and he still treats it like background noise, he's not being cute, he's being dense. Relationships are not Olympic sports, and nobody gets a gold medal for talking about someone else's behind while ignoring the emotional brick wall they're building at home. He says you're overreacting. Sure, and I'm sure Noah overreacted too when he started building that ark. Jokes aside, if a partner consistently crosses a boundary after being told it matters to you, then we have passed the town of oops and are halfway through Disrespectville. Honestly, if Jason wants to praise Emily so much, maybe he should try using those compliments in a job reference and help her get transferred across the country. You deserve to feel heard, not like a passive listener in his weird stand-up set about coworkers. And don't let guilt keep you glued to a situation that makes your soul feel like it's buffering. Whether it's through therapy, deep conversation, or a bold exit, you have every right to reset the terms of your peace. Just remember, love without respect is like cake without frosting, dry, disappointing, and not worth the calories. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell us your favorite story in the comments, and feel free to share your own story too.